Hey, Jamie here, and welcome to part two of module one. So, in this, we're going to be focusing specifically on deliberate purpose, which is one of the two variables, if you remember from part one, for career clarity. And so, in this, we're going to define what is deliberate purpose in a purpose driven career and the difference between having a purpose driven career and, say, money driven or prestige driven or any other factor driven career. Understanding how do you go about deciding a purpose, and also understand how to choose your target companies. And before we dive into any of the material for this part, one thing I want to make clear is just because you choose one purpose now or in the next few years, etc., doesn't mean that that purpose needs to be the only purpose that you have for the rest of your life. Purposes evolve. So as a quick example, so if you think of someone like Bill Gates, initially his very first start was to build his business from the ground up. But as that business grew, and of course that was his purpose at the time, and evolving that business, which was Microsoft, to become eventually to the point where he was then able to grow, step out as CEO, hire a new CEO. He had all this money and all this time, and he didn't necessarily know what to do. And so he evolved his purpose to go from running Microsoft and building Microsoft to be successful to opening up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where now that has been his guiding purpose. So purposes evolve over your career. It's not like you're going to choose one purpose and then that's the purpose for the rest of your life, although it could be. So, all right, with that said, so the difference between a purpose-driven career and, say, a money-driven career or recognition or significance-driven or even a security-driven career is that what's driving a career for a purpose-driven is going to be mission, having a sense of importance to the work that you're doing, personal growth, and getting results. Seeing an advancement in whatever it is that you're working on and tangibly getting the results. Now, if you're driven by money, obviously you're driven by money. If it's prestige, it's prestige. If it's recognition, it's recognition. Security, security. So, and then in the same instance, if it's a money-driven career, you're in pursuit of money. And if it's power or prestige, it's in pursuit of power and prestige or significance. So, and oftentimes, a lot of people, the reason they don't have that sense of fulfillment is they're pursuing the exact same thing, and the rewards are what they're pursuing. It's nothing more than that. And in a purpose-driven career, yes, you're pursuing the mission, growth, and results, but in terms of the rewards, what you're getting is you're getting meaning. You're seeing an impact. You're making a greater contribution to a project or to other people greater than just yourself. You feel like you belong to a more important, greater contribution rather than just self-serving. And it's also higher performance. In order to continue to advance the mission, in order to serve people or the project or whatever it is that you're focused on at a higher level, you yourself need to get better, which also means that you need to develop yourself, which is self-development, personal improvement, and consistently learning new skills, learning more knowledge, and developing your ability to be creative and be a leader. So motivation will increase with a purpose-driven career, but when a career is driven by money or prestige or security, motivation decreases. And again, going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's because those are deficiency needs. It's not self-actualization. It's not pushing you to either grow or contribute because you're solely focused on yourself. And motivation decreases because when we become satiated, our motivation tanks. So once you're complacent, you're complacent. But with a purpose-driven career, it just keeps going. So what are the results long-term of having a purpose-driven career as opposed to being money-driven or prestige-driven or importance-driven or security-driven? Is happiness, wealth, and performance compound geometrically over time. They compound. And the reason for that is if you genuinely really enjoy what you do, if you love what you do, you will always be a top performer. You will always outperform other people on the team, in the industry, etc., because you have a level of motivation that other people within that, whether it's your company or even within your team or within the industry, you're going to put in more blood, sweat, and tears than the other people. You're going to think harder. You're going to be more creative because you just care more. And that will compound over time. And imagine if you were to think about something, because you actually do enjoy it, you think about something for 7 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week. And you're not doing it out of pain or out of feeling like you're forced to work. You're literally thinking about it on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, because you just genuinely enjoy it. And it's not painful to you. It's not work to you. It's enjoyment. You're going to have 2 extra days of thought or learning or development as opposed to everyone else who's turning their brains off after Friday, 5 p.m. So that additional 2 days over 52 weeks, over, say, 5 or 10 years, imagine where you'll be. Imagine how much more you can learn and grow and develop, and how much more of an impact you'll make over that time period of 5 or 10 years, knowing that you're getting 2 additional days of just thinking, processing, and maybe even just reading additionally during the evenings. How much further you can go. And with all that additional skill and knowledge and productivity, how much more money you would make. How much faster you would advance your career. And so on the other side, when someone is driven by money or prestige or wealth or security, they will hit a point where eventually they become comfortable. And once they become comfortable, the law of diminishing returns will take place. They will become complacent, they become saturated, motivation drops, and they start to meet expectations and simply get by. Their days turn into just another day. So, again, deliberate purpose is the overlap within Ikigai of what you love and what the world needs, or a sense of contribution, and we're solving for mission. That's the variable we're solving for. We're solving for a mission. So, you can think of deliberate purpose as a mission that you personally care about. And again, what you care about could be entirely different than what someone in your family or your friends or other people that you know care about. You are different. You're individual. What you value is very different from what other people value. What you find interesting could be entirely different from what other people find interesting. So there's no right or wrong answer to this. And the way that you can think about a mission is you're solving a problem or advancing an opportunity that you personally care about. It's something that excites you. You wake up and get out of bed excited to work on it because you genuinely enjoy thinking about it, learning about it, reading about it, and working on it, advancing it, moving it forward. So, how do you go about finding that? How do you think about that? And there's really 4 ways that you can break, or 4 steps to breaking that down. And it starts with defining a personal interest. And again, from part 1, I described interest as something that you can think about, learn about, talk about, read about, and you can just think about it consistently, and it doesn't get old. It doesn't feel like work. It's something that you genuinely enjoy. And there are many different areas where this could be applicable. And also, if you have something that's very important to you, or something from your past that has defined who you are, and because of that, it's defined what's important in terms of values in your life, that could be another area. So as an example, there was someone I had previously worked with who she'd grown up and she'd always receive hand-me-downs, and they were gender-neutral clothing. And so growing up as a girl, she never felt really beautiful or confident in her clothing. And so when I was working with her, I never would have known that because she was very well dressed and seemed stylish. And so it wasn't until that we got to this part where she actually said, well, one of my interests is clothing, and even more specifically, how it affects the confidence in women. And I said, all right, interesting, tell me more. And then she started to say, well, when I grew up, I never felt beautiful and I never felt very confident because I always had gender neutral clothing and I never really felt pretty. And I feel like that really negatively affected my confidence growing up. And so now she's, changed or I guess focused on that now in her life. She does care a lot about clothing. She does care about how her clothing makes her feel and makes her feel confident. And she realized that there are many other people and many other women who feel the same way. And I would actually argue many men probably feel the same way too. So in terms of step 2, which is defining a problem or an opportunity within personal interests, for her, step 1 would be clothing and confidence. But then for her, step 2 would be that many women don't feel confident in their clothing, or many women don't feel confident. And so then step 3 would be define which people are affected by these problems or opportunities. And again, there are millions of women around the world that feel that way. So step 4 is define how these people stand to benefit from the solution or advancement. And so if this problem were to be solved, you would have millions of women that would then feel confident, who knows, when they feel confident, what would they do? Maybe they would advance their careers. Maybe they would step outside of their comfort zone and try something new, whether that's in their personal life, in dating, in relationships, or in their professional life in terms of taking new positions or pursuing new opportunities at a different company or a different industry, or going back for a higher degree, something. But with that sense of confidence, what would they do in addition to their life? So, and then step 5 is really crafting that into a mission statement. So something along the lines of, my work contribution will help women to dramatically improve their self-confidence through their clothing and self-expression. So another example, because I know that this can be difficult. So another example was, there was someone else I'd worked with who his background was in finance, and he really did enjoy finance. He liked learning about it, talking about it, thinking about it, reading about it, etc. So for him, it wasn't work learning about finance and talking about it. But then I asked, all right, so if you genuinely do enjoy that, what are problems or opportunities within that personal interest that you personally align with? And so after doing some research and thinking about what was currently going on, one of the problems that he came up with was that there were many small businesses that couldn't get credit, and they couldn't access capital in order to keep themselves thriving because of COVID. And especially during the early to mid stages of COVID, despite the stimulus, there were still many small businesses suffering because they couldn't get access to credit. And so we realized that it's not just small businesses. There's a lot of medium-sized businesses as well that, if they're not actively covered by, say, a large corporate bank, and they don't have the credit ratings and they don't have access to credit facilities, they don't have access to the capital that they need to support the working capital needs, inventory, rent, their billables, so being able to pay employees, etc. So that was a big problem that he aligned with. And so then step 3 was defining which people are affected by these problems or opportunities. Well, he knew that was going to be the millions of small and medium-sized businesses that couldn't get access to that capital. And then step 4 was define how these people stand to benefit from the solution or advancement. And how they would benefit is they would be able to pay and get through the hard times, being able to pay their bills and pay their employees in order to stay alive and not go bankrupt. So for him, the mission statement that he'd come up with was, well, my work contribution would help small business owners to access the required capital needed in order to grow their businesses. And then a third example I would have here was, there was someone else that I'd worked with who was a strong advocate for climate change and for sustainability, specifically within energy. So her interests were very aligned with climate change. And step 2 was figuring out, all right, well, define the problems or opportunities that exist within climate change. And there are many. But specifically, the problem that she narrowed it down to was, all right, well, there are greenhouse gas emissions due to non-sustainable transportation. So fossil fuel driven transportation. And so step 3 was define which people are affected by these problems or opportunities. Well, everyone on Earth, because climate change affects everybody. And then step 4 was define how these people stand to benefit from the solution or from the advancement of the opportunity. So for her, she narrowed it down to, well, the benefits would be cleaner air, as well as the reduction of greenhouse gases, sustainable climate, as well as cheaper transportation, if they're able to get the technology to where it needs to be, eventually to the point where it's cheaper than fossil fuels. So for her, she narrowed it down to a summary mission of, my work contribution will help electric vehicle companies to accelerate sustainable energy and fight global climate change. So the way that you can, when you start to break down these interests into these different steps, you're going to create a mission statement. And this is for you. And what a mission statement is, you can think of it as, my work contribution will help blank, these people or this opportunity to achieve this outcome or achieve some outcome. So again, the 3 examples I given on the previous slide were, 1, my work contribution will help women. 2, dramatically improve their self-confidence through their clothing and self-expression. And then a second example would be, my work contribution will help small business owners. 2, access the required capital to grow their businesses. And then the third example was, my work contribution will help electric vehicle companies. 2, accelerate sustainable energy and fight global climate change. So when someone has a mission and they know the importance of their work, they know why their work and why it's important, who it's benefiting, and the reason behind whatever it is that they're doing, the grand mission, they feel aligned to it. And this is a very different feeling than waking up and saying, well, I'm going to work because I have to, or I'm going to work because I need to pay the bills, or I'm going to work because I have to eat, I have to support myself, or I need to save for retirement, or I want to be able to afford nice things. You can see the difference between someone who is purpose-driven and actually has a mission statement for their career, as opposed to someone who's just saying, I just need to make money because I want to be able to buy things and save. One is very, very motivating and the other one is not. So as a quick example, the first worksheet that you're going to be working through is the deliberate purpose worksheet. And so I'm going to bring this up. And as you can see here, at the top of the worksheet, you're going to start with, what are my 5 strongest areas of interest in life? And this does take time. So this isn't something that you'll be able to power through in say 10 minutes, because this is your life. And it's exciting to think that you can build a very strong purpose-driven career that you do enjoy, that you do love. And it will continuously motivate you year after year, month after month. So take the time to think through, what are 5 areas of interest? And again, think of an interest as something that you can think about, learn about, talk about, read about, and it doesn't get boring to you. It doesn't feel like work. So you're going to define 5 areas of interest there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to dive into each of the 5 areas of interest. So, for example, the next part is now focus on your first area of interest. What are 3 problems or opportunities that exist today relating to your first area of interest which you feel most passionate about or interested in? And note that you might need to do some research, because not always do we know what the 3 big problems are within an area of interest, or the 3 most exciting opportunities within an area of interest. So you're going to think, as well as probably do some research to come up with 3 problems or opportunities within that area. And then the next part is step 3, as I'd shown on the previous slide. So, all right, for each of the above listed problems or opportunities, who or what is affected by the problem or will benefit from advancing the opportunity? So who stands to benefit from solving this problem or advancing this opportunity? And you want to define, who are the people, whether it's a company or if it's individual people or if it's the whole world, etc. But you want to know, all right, my work is contributing to who? Who stands to benefit from my work contribution? So then after that, the next part is, for each of the above 3 listed problems or opportunities and those affected by them, what would be the benefit or the transformation in these people's lives or the world by solving the problem or advancing the opportunity? So this is where you're actually describing what is the benefit, what is the outcome. And it's the outcome that's motivating, because you want to have that outcome. You want to see this end result. So you're going to list that for the 3. And then once you've gone through those steps, and again, remember, this is only the first area of interest. This is not 2 through 5 here for those other areas of interest. So this is all within still that first area of interest. You're going to take these responses that you have from above and then come up with, for your first area of interest, 3 mission statements based on the 3 problems or opportunities that you came up with within that area of interest. Who's affected by it? What is the benefit or transformation they stand to see or to realize? And create those into mission statements. So again, I've included those 3 examples that I'd mentioned earlier there. So what you're going to see is, if I keep going down here, so your second area of interest, and you're going to do the exact same thing for your second area of interest. And again, that'll lead to 3 different mission statements. And then for the third area of interest, again, that'll end up with 3 different mission statements. So when you do that for all 5 areas of interest, what you're going to find is you will have 15 purpose-driven statements or 15 different mission statements. And what you want to do is after you've laid out those 15, think through which of these 15 makes me the most excited. Which of these 15 is most important to me? Which of these 15 could I wake up and get out of bed every day knowing that I'm doing important work? I'm focusing on something that I personally care about, because that will motivate you to continuously do your best, to learn more, to read more, to develop yourself, to take more opportunities and take more risk in your career, to try harder, to be more creative. So once you've thought through those 15, you're going to choose one, and that's going to be the primary, that's going to be the deliberate purpose that you focus on. So once you have that, then once you have that mission, you're going to use that mission to actually choose the target companies that you want to work for. And the way that I love to describe target companies is some of you, I hope, immediately see this picture and recognize where it's from. You may not know where it is or where this picture is from, but so this is from one of my favorite movies, and it's from Troy. And the reason I love using this as an example is when you think about everyone in this photo or everyone in this part of the movie scene, they're all on one mission. These tens of thousands of ships are all focused on the exact same mission. The fall of Troy, and I would also say the taking Helen back. But anyways, they're all on the same mission, but how they're contributing to the mission is very different. So as an example, you have Achilles and the Myrmidons and kind of the specially trained or elite warriors that their primary purpose is to fight for the mission. And then you have other boats that might be providing food, wine, water, other boats that might be providing catapults, barricades, wood tools, tents, etc. And then swords, shields, bows, weaponry, etc. So all these boats are on the same mission, but they're serving the mission in different ways. So when you think about that, you're going to have a mission, and there's going to be many, many, many companies that are all serving the mission. And so, again, metaphorically, assuming that you were in this scene, before you even got there, you would have had to ask yourself 2 questions. Which of these boats am I getting on? And how am I contributing to that boat? What am I doing on the boat? And so when you think about that for a company, you're going to have your mission statement or your deliberate purpose. But then as you do research to figure out which companies are focused on that mission, you're going to find many, many companies, maybe over 100 plus companies that are all focused on that mission. But how they're serving the mission could be entirely different. Some could be products, some could be services, some could be finance or financial asset companies. And so this is figuring out who is serving the mission, which boats are serving the mission. But then the next question is, what am I doing on the boat? And that's where you can think of a company as one of the boats. And all the people within the boat are the people within a company. And everybody's doing different things. You have the accounting and finance team. You have operations and IT, marketing and sales, HR and client support or customer support. And then you also have the product teams or the service teams. And then in the very front of the boat, you have the C-suite leaders. And those are the people guiding the boat and guiding the company forward towards the mission, to achieve the mission. So the next worksheet you're going to be focusing on is the target company's worksheet. So for this, at the top, you're going to restate what is the deliberate purpose that you've already created from worksheet number 1. But then you're going to add a third part to it. And that third part is you're going to describe how you want to help serve that mission. So my work contribution will help blank to blank by doing something. By doing what? And that's where you're going to need to define how are all these different companies serving the mission that you care about. And as an example, and this will require some research because oftentimes we don't know what all the companies are out there that are focused on this mission or on your mission. So You're going to need to research all the different ways people around the world are working to solve this problem. How are companies serving your mission? So here, you're going to want to define all the different avenues or the different ways that people are approaching serving your mission. And then you want to break down, all right, which companies provide services that serve my mission? Which companies design, create, work on, and or sell products that serve my mission? Which companies are innovating and leading my mission? Are there any small, unique, or niche companies that are working on your mission in a different or interesting way? And then finally, which companies working on your mission inspire you the most? Because sometimes the most interesting company or the company that inspires you the most doesn't necessarily mean that they're the biggest or the most prestigious company. They may be a small company that you've never heard of before, that most people have never heard of before. But how they're approaching solving the problem or advancing the opportunity that you care most about, your mission, they could be the one that you see it and you go, oh my gosh, that's it. That's the one I want. So after you do this research, then you're going to challenge yourself to think through, what are the top 10 target companies that I would love to work for? Because I know all of these companies are focused on my mission and they're serving my mission in a way that I can absolutely get behind, that I'm personally motivated for, and I would deeply care about my work knowing that I'm working for these companies. And notice that you're starting with the company, not the position. And the reason for that is a lot of people define their careers by positions. And that's partially why so many people are lacking the sense of meaning or the sense of fulfillment, because they're usually pursuing a position for money, or because they believe that that's their specific skill set. You can evolve and you can grow. You can become good at anything that you choose to be good at. And so when you start with the company, you're starting with purpose, because every company exists to solve a problem, or every company exists to solve an opportunity or to advance an opportunity. So for you, by starting with the company, you're starting with something that you deeply care about and you can align yourself with, and you'll feel that regardless of where they put me in the company, I will be contributing to something that I deeply care about. I'll be moving this forward. Now, of course, you're going to be choosing a specific position within the company, but it's important that you start with target companies before you focus on position. Because position, again, that's level 2, level 1, where you want to start with is company. So those are the 2 worksheets that you're going to be focusing on for part 2. And then in part 3, we're going to dive into strategic growth in the marketplace and focusing on how do you go about building your skills, building your knowledge, building your creativity and your leadership to the point where you are generating a lot of wealth while at the same time doing something that you find deeply meaningful and deeply fulfilling. So I'll see you inside.